Hello everyone. I wish each one of you a very lovely, beautiful, knowledgeable, didactic, pleasant afternoon. When you think you can or you think you cannot, you are right. One more time, whether you think you can or you think you cannot, you are right. The great quotation given by Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motors. With this beautiful saying, I welcome you all for yet an amazing session. This is Professor Shyam K. Mishra, your moderator for today's session, and I would like to welcome you all in the induction program of our 22nd batch of PGDM. So before we get started, I would like to brief you about the flow of the session. The session will be of 1 hour 30 minutes, in which first 15 minutes is for the introduction, next 1 hour is for the discussion, and rest 15 minutes will be for the question and answers from the students. You can type your questions in the chat box and that will be addressed during as well as at the end of the session. Now, I would like to introduce our first guest, Ms. Sonal Dixit, Senior HR Manager with Mahindra & Mahindra Finance Private Limited. Ms. Sonal Dixit is currently taking care of HR operations, compensations, and benefits, employee safety, and HR compliances in Mahindra & Mahindra Finance Private Limited. She has over 13 years of experience in all areas of human resource, including talent engagement strategy, employee recognition, total rewards, CSR, performance management, employee wellness and safety, and employee training. Her industry expertise includes retail, distribution, and finance sector. Ms. Dixit has been on the board as a project manager to achieve GPTW, Great Place to Work Top 25 Companies, People Compatibility Maturity Model, PCMM, Level 3 to Level 5, and is currently serving as the project member for diversity and inclusion at Mahindra Finance. She earned an MBA from Symbiosis University, Pune, and double graduate in Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor of Technology from Lucknow University. She has also achieved the designation of SHRM, SCP, SPHR, and CCEP, Certified Compliance and Ethics Professional. As the HR subject matter, her expertise is in both operational and strategic HR practices. Overseeing all aspects of human resources management, she established and developed human resource terms and infrastructures in her assigned area to effectively support rapid business growth. She is also an active volunteer in NGO where she gives classes to primary school students. She is a persona, and we are glad to welcome Sonal Dixit ma'am in this panel discussion. Now we have our second guest, Mr. Saurabh Sandeep, the Senior TA Officer at AU Small Finance Bank. Mr. Saurabh is looking at regional hiring and talent management for branch banking in rest of the Maharashtra and Goa. Previously, he did the resourced hiring and recruiting for companies like Facebook, Microsoft, John Deere, for technical and non-technical roles, that is for India, US, and Canada market. She is the esteemed guest for today's panel discussion, and we are glad to welcome him as a panel member. So now this is the time to start the session. So I would like to ask the very first question with Ms. Sonal Dixit. The question is, nowadays, it has been seen that banking and finance sector is facing some downsides of the slowing economy. So what is actually the reason of this slowdown that we can see in this banking sector?
Cool. Good afternoon, everyone. Shyam, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, post-pandemic, the Indian economy recovery has slowed down, and even more after the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. So there are multiple challenges on the economic front, ranging from high inflation to a lack of demand and weak consumer sentiments. So when this has happened, our banking structure has actually gone a hit towards because the loans have dried up. Now, loans to the companies and individuals have dried up over the past few months, and we were going through the RBI data, which said that the rate was 12% before the pandemic struck India. Now it is 5 to 5.6%. Even the SBI, the biggest public lender bank, has had plans to double its credit grow to 10% in FY 2022. However, the bank is now willing and it's ready to miss the target, knowing the NPAs have actually gone up. So the biggest challenge here is that the lending dilemma. Banks have turned cautious after a sharp rise in the loan defaults. Several reports have, including the central bank, indicates that there's been a spike in loan defaults due to the pandemic. Now the RBI expects banks to, bank's bad loan ratio has jumped over to 9.8%. So by the end of this financial year, it will go to 7.48%, which was a year ago. So now the banks are facing a major NPA challenge in 2021. Now the people are ready to take credit and they are ready to take credit, but the credibility here is not very clear. The lack of credibility, in spite of having good CIBIL reports, and it's impacting, the lack of credit, even lending by banks, is actually directly impacting the demand and economic growth. So many individuals and businesses are seeking loans to either reshape their businesses or finances or stabilize operations. But these high NPAs and sticky interest rates have actually, after the pandemic hit, has actually slowed the banking sector economy. That is what my opinion is.
So that's so nice of you, ma'am. And we have the clear idea about how that the banking and finance sector is having that downsize. And meanwhile, our esteemed guest Atul Tiwari sir has joined. So let me introduce sir to the audience. So Atul Tiwari sir is actually the Senior Vice President as well as the HR head with the Spice Money Private Limited. Mr. Tiwari sir is an HR professional with over 15 years of qualitative experience in HR technology, product design, management consulting, leadership development, strategy planning, shared services, C&B and OD interventions across industry verticals globally. Mr. Tiwari possesses a clear understanding of the industry corporate HR trends with the distinction of instituting quality practices to achieve business excellence, successfully scaled up systems and processes as growth enabler and provide ability in business strategy and planning. Mr. Tiwari is passionate about topic related to specifying work life through HR technology, change management, organizational development, talent management, HR transformations, and leadership development. In the last few years, Mr. Tiwari has run multiple people interventions to help organizations and its leaders realizing their potential. He has worked in a width on all facets of HR and related technologies within functions like shared service operations, performance management, talent acquisition, employee engagement, leadership development, HR technology, talent acquisition, and compensation. She is the esteemed guest of today's session, and we are glad to welcome him, the Tiwari sir. So, after this, I'll proceed the session further. So, the second question of the session is with Mr. Saurabh. So, Mr. Saurabh, the question is with you. What the changes you can notice in the banking and finance sector in last 5 years, and what is your prediction of that changes that would come in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, thank you, Shyamji. First of all, I would like to wish a very happy Independence Day to all our esteemed panelists and you. I hope I'm loud and clear. And obviously, coming back to the question, yes, there has been a tremendous change, because for understanding the change, we need to understand the, emotion and understand the change in the culture of, the demography and the population here. Okay, so back there, if you will remember, I'll go a bit more, in the older time, that back there, when you were in your 20s, it was really impossible for us to understand that okay, a day will come in banking where we can just sit at our home and our account will be open through something called like video banking, right? So this was something which was not imaginable at all. So definitely, as the time changes, the taste and the preferences of the consumer changes, and so has changed the the digital requirement. So if you can see from last 4 to 5 years, the focus of banking is more of providing financial solutions, right, to the customer. So if we talk about providing the financial solution, that means that there is a consumer who has certain issues and challenges, and through the help of technology, we are trying to, solve those issues. Talking about payments through QR code. You also know that in this situation or in this pandemic, where it was very much difficult to everyone to move out of the house and use the cash and use the cash and other things. So here it's like in the form of payment of QR code, a solution came in between that. Okay, we can pay through QR codes. We can pay through online systems. So definitely these are the significant changes which has come in year last 4 to 5 years. And obviously the future of banking is totally depending upon providing financial solutions. So if we call it as fintech, right? So in future, as the consumer or the consumer base will have more problem, and the banks are now the institutions who have evolved themselves as providing a solution to the consumers. Earlier it was just account opening, loan, and few basic formalities, but nowadays there are a lot more other things apart from just account opening and money lending and any other thing, right? So banks are those financial institutions nowadays who are providing good solutions to their customers and clients. So definitely in coming 5 to 6 years, if I had to predict, yes, definitely fintech is a market where every financial institution, whether it is a bank or it is a financial services organization, is focusing on, because it's one of the motto for every financial organization is that to specifically targeting the unbanked, talking about not just urban market but also the rural market. So rural market people are not that tech savvy. They're not financially literate, or they're not so that is also, you can see that in last 5 to 6 years, the number of that chit fund companies also, right? Earlier there were a lot of chit fund companies where there are a lot of frauds also happening in the urban rural areas. But if you can see, the number of such cases have significantly came really down, because banks has also proven themselves as to be an institution to make people aware about about that. Okay, there is a guy sitting in a bank in a rural area to say the consumers that okay, no one is going to help you with the interest rate of 25 or 30% on your money you have deposited, right? Because as per RBI guidelines, this is the so and so interest rate what we can help you. So people are now more aware. So what my perception says is that the future is to providing more and more financial solutions, more and more help to the consumer as per their situation, seeking the problem and providing the solution with the help of technology. So this is going to be the future for banking as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saurabh, for giving the clear idea about what would be the future and what we have faced till time. Now the question is with Mr. Atul Tiwari sir, that sir, as per your view, what is actually the biggest challenge nowadays in banking and finance sector, and what is the impact of digitalization on this sector also nowadays?
So I think, thank you very much, Sanjay. First of all, I'm glad and privileged to be part of this discussion and would love to interact and put up my points of view, though I was not expecting such a big introduction about myself. I'm far grounded in terms of what I have done so far, but in terms of what I can do for the people front in terms of whichever organizations I have worked for. So coming back to your question, is about what the biggest challenge in the banking and finance sector we face at the moment is what Saur was also mentioning, is the inclusion. So financial inclusion is something which is one of the biggest challenge for any banks, be it the biggest banks like SBI, who has the largest network in the country, or PNB, which is the second largest bank, right? Even for a private sector banks as well. The biggest challenge which I have looked into is in terms of including giving the financial services to the biggest part of India, which is 70% of the population which resides in the rural India. So that is in where they are struggling. Nobody has figured out any solution. And that's the reason wherein, in fact, the Jan Dhan Yojana, which Prime Minister Modi initiated with a clear, I would say, goal to include everyone, every citizen of the country should have bank account with zero balance. But that was also not successful. Why? Because it's not just opening an account. The intent was also to use those services of the bank, right? Whatever bank accounts are being used. So people are being forced. They have been given the account through technology. The accounts have been opened up, but there was hardly any transaction which was happening on those bank accounts. And that is in where this whole initiative was actually coming to standstill, of no use. So there, then a lot of players and the fintech world actually emerged, wherein a lot of fintech organizations have come up in terms of working as a bank correspondents, right, BCs. And that has actually picked up so very fast in terms of giving those services to the end customer sitting at one corner in the India. And here also the second biggest challenge why banks are not able to do is also the cost of managing a customer. Because for each account, what we have looked at, one of the banks we was talking to, and they said that for each account, actually, if I have to open, there is a cost of around 1,500 rupees, something like that. That's the kind of cost the banks have to incur to manage that account holder in whatever way. And it's a huge cost. It doesn't, but the ROI is completely in opposite direction, the kind of cost which they have to incur. And hence, the best was to create this whole supply chain through banking correspondence. And organizations have come up, wherein fintech world has come up, of course, because technology is something which will scale and reach to people. Nowadays, every single person, even I belong to a very small village from MP, but there also I can see my uncles who are almost 65, 70 years old, they also have a Facebook account now. And they use WhatsApp, at least in some sending pictures or anything. So that's the kind of internet revolution has happened to the rural India. And hence, this whole push in terms of giving the financial inclusion. So my uncle is there. He is retired. So he has to take a pension. For getting a pension, he has to travel from his village to the city, almost 45 kilometers to get a pension. They are not that tech savvy in terms of getting a ATM card, because now banks have also some restrictions in terms of providing the ATM cards beyond certain age. Right. And villages, when people in village, they don't like too much of ifs and buts, right? In terms of going to, they said, okay, I am okay having standing in a queue and then get my money withdrawn. I don't want those complications in terms of remembering the password or likewise. So that is in where this challenge has come. And banks are actually facing these challenges in terms of how to reaching to the last man. So these are the two major challenges, the cost, which I mentioned, and the inclusion, because they don't have the right infrastructure, and where even government is struggling to provide that kind of infrastructure to people or to the banks in terms of reaching to the last man. But any growing economy or country, if they have to grow, if there is a financial inclusion, you can imagine if 65% of the population And I'm talking about some of the industries, right? 65% of the population is residing minimum is in rural India, but they don't have access to insurance, which is again one of the biggest industries. They don't have access to education, which is again one of the biggest industries. They don't have access to healthcare, again one of the biggest industries. Wherein if these 3-4 industries, just an example, can, for example, even e-commerce, Amazon does not deliver to villages. Flipkart doesn't deliver to villages, though they are giants for the urban market, but they have not reached to that level. If you can imagine, if they will reach to that level, what's the kind of customer base they will touch, and what's the kind of wealth or the economy situation will be there for India. So these are some of the challenges which government, private sector, or banks are facing, and hence companies like Spice Money, which are reaching with a mission to have, we call it Bharat and India. So there are two things which exist in. So India is typically 35% of population, but the major population, which is Bharat, resides in rural India. And if that inclusion happens, in terms of financial inclusion I'm talking about, the story will be very, very different for India.
Well, that's so nice of you, sir, because you have given a very good and very clear idea about the banking, how the bank reach in the rural areas, how the digitalization made the difference in the rural areas, rural market, and now we have the idea that the rural banking is doing better. So that like the rural banking is doing better in terms of if we compare it with the urban banks, is it true, sir, that rural are doing better? Is there any other reason also apart from digitalization that the rural banking is doing better as compared to the urban banking?
No, so I would say rural banking is not, there's no comparison as set who's doing better or who's doing bad. Rural market is just, we are at just the early stage in terms of even reaching out to people and providing the services. Of course, in terms of the, I would say numbers, individual numbers, probably in terms of the transaction values, which I'm talking about, is less as compared to urban market. But the volume is certainly very high as compared to the urban market. Be it credit, like lending, people in rural market are struggling to get, and they are still paying 15%, 20% kind of rate of interest by local lenders who are there. Why? Because they don't have the access to the banks or the credit lending. The second piece is also because they don't have credit history. Right, they don't have credit score like rural urban people have. So that is another challenge which rural market has, in terms of even banks are hesitant to give loans because they don't have any credit ratings or credit score for the rural people, and hence the volume of the transactions, be it loan also, it is not beyond 50,000 rupees for any rural customer. So I would say yes, though the recent trend through tech, when we have seen, I'm talking about fintech, even the performance is quite better as compared to the urban market. Why? Because in urban, because of this whole pandemic which has happened, there is a lot of loss of jobs, EMIs being going for a toss for people, right? The non-NPAs are going very, very high as compared to a rural market, because they were not much dependent on the job. They were majorly dependent on their agriculture, and fortunately things are fine. In terms of whatever their source of income is there, that is not much disturbed, and hence the performance in terms of banks or whatever banking services people are availing in the rural market is not that bad in terms of the data which we are looking at. But I would not compare. It is like apple to orange comparison right now, because urban market is in a very different dimension altogether. Rural market is still not even at a starting stage, I would say. We are still, people are reaching out and knowing that, okay, these are the services which are there. So we cannot compare clearly who is doing bad or who is doing good. But this is what the situation is.
Oh, that's so nice of you, sir. Now the question is with Ms. Sonal Dikshit. The question is, as the management students, or the other branch students also, there is one dream for them to work in a bank. I have seen the maximum youngsters, they wanted to work in the bank. So the question is, what are the best ways to join the banking sector or finance sector, not only bank, finance also, and how and what are actually the skill set that is required for the students to join that banking and finance sector. Yeah.
Okay, so your question is skill set.
Right.
Okay. So that firstly, maybe probably the audience is MBA in finance, in HR, in everything maybe. So when we talk about banking and finance sector, there are exams to it, and the MBA in finance actually opened doors to banking, real estate, insurance, investment sectors. Basically, so MBA is basically a foundation in the area of all finance, business, and economics throughout the comprehensive core and elicitive subjects that they have. But now, as even our other panel members said, that today banking is not limited to opening an account and depositing the money. It has gone beyond that. So when you talk about the scope of banks and the scope of subjects, scope of roles in finance sector, banking sector, it is very vast, including to financial management, risk management, compliance, consulting, venture capital, financial institutions, commercial banking, strategy and planning, treasury management, investor relations, investment analysis, investment management, and basically what even we coming from a Mahindra Finance, coming from a non-banking financial institution, we think that the skill set required here is a very open. So the main important thing for a student right now here is that you should have an open mindset. Open mindset says that you should accept the things and you need to create a disruption for yourself, wherein you constantly ask yourself that what are the things that I am doing and what are the processes or what are the it's a very typical name, or I'll say what are the things I am doing which are creating an obstacle in my efficiency, my progress. So if you talk about in efficiency, performance, and what are the qualitative things? So there are qualitative aspects, skill set, there are quantitative skill set. So when we talk about banking sector, you should be a good data interpreter. You should have good data analytical skills. You should be good in finance. Skill set can be many much. The softer skills is much more important. How you actually grab the things, how you actually learn it and implement it. The result orientation, execution excellence is more important, and that's a skill set, or I'll say it's basically a competency to mark with. So that is a milestone. When we say that you reach there, you should look at that milestone once you are looking at entering into a banking finance sector. And today, with technology being at par, we'll say that when technology is there, we cannot think that there is a 4x4 box. We can think that there is a world beyond this. Today, when I was sometime back when I was very young, I never thought that accessing my net bank, my statement on my cell phone is too easy, just a matter of few seconds. Now, at that time, it was unimaginable, and today it is not. With all the, I'll first talk about Mahindra Finance, that being a rural finance company, and the parentage, or I'll say the strength of the company, is that it is in every block and blocks and tehsils of every location and area across India. So when it comes to that, today many companies are following the same business model, wherein they have went into rural banking. And today banking is not limited to wearing a tie and sitting in an AC office and just typing something. Today banking has gone beyond it and meeting the actual place. I'll say there's a Japanese term called Gemba, that means the actual place. So it says that in Japanese term, it means that it creates an opportunity for a person to go and visit the customer, meet the customer there at the same place, check the opportunity and capture it. And wherever you see there's a lapse in your service, close it. Upgrade it. That's what Gemba means. So today, Gemba is very important for anyone. Going to the actual place, looking at the current scenario, everybody is the rural banking sector is actually every banking, non-banking companies are going towards it. Not because the lending rates is an issue. Everybody, probably the bank was not reachable earlier. Now banks are at their footsteps. Now they know that there are so many companies. There is Axis Bank, there's IDFC, there is AU, there is any dealer who is today giving you vehicles has a finance company allotted to it, whether it is Renault, whether it is Toyota, whether it is Tata, whether it is Zyka. Every individual, every automobile industry, every person, and today even in a very small village, every person is having a vehicle, whether two-wheeler or four-wheeler, whether they are buying it in cash or in finance. So it means every person is today interacting with banking people or non-banking people, and investing in money and getting it financed or through whatever resources it is, through refinance or anything.
Okay. So in between, I have seen that Atul sir wants to add something. So Atul sir, you have something to add?
Yeah. So Sanjay, what Sonal was mentioning, I think one thing is important in terms of the students, right? So I would just give two things which is very important for any student to look at. One, which Sonal definitely touched upon, is be flexible in terms of your mindset, thought process. It is very important, friends. And flexible in the sense that what you're looking at, there are different avenues within finance. So I'll share my story. When I started my journey in HR, it was very typical to understand that, okay, HR, you have to join, then it is like typical growth path, right? You are working in HR department, and then the growth is like your promotions are happening, you are reaching to the vice president level or whatever, or a head HR, and then this is what the entirety is. This also probably came from my defense background, because when I saw my father being in F4, so I saw that, okay, the ranks literally means growth to you, right? But when I after my MBA, I joined a technology company, which is Hexaware. But there, I was given a role of business analyst. So nobody heard of HR graduate working as a business analyst, but that was a very new avenue altogether in terms of the role, right? And I never explored as a student before. Even during my MBA college, I was just being taught or was made understood. Even my guest faculty lectures, they never came from business side. They always came from HR side. So it was also very clear understanding HR means you have to work in HR department. But I was given a role in the business wherein I was doing consulting, and consulting also in technology consulting. So what was that? HR tech consulting. So I was exposed, I was given a training on the consulting, how you need to consult, how you have to understand the HR processes, how you have to go to customer, map the HR processes, redesign and consult them, what are the HR best practices and processes, which HR technology to implement, right? And then you have to travel across the globe. So trust me, friends, there my growth, exposure and learning, all the three were far beyond any of my HR colleagues or batchmates have gone into, because I was in business. But I never explored. I was very hesitant. For first 6 months, I actually, with the country head, enterprise solutions head, who was my boss, I was literally that, no, I want to go to join the corporate HR role. He pushed me, he convinced me, he told me that you try this for 6 months. If you do not like this, then I'll take you back to corporate HR role. I actually didn't see back. I got an opportunity. I moved to Singapore. For 3 years, I was there, traveling across 18 APAC countries, meeting all the HR heads. So you can imagine the kind of exposure I had. Being HR graduate, I'm not, no offense to, HR as a function, it has its own excitement. And I'm working in HR function right now. But I am telling you that the kind of exposure I was getting, I was meeting all the CHROs, I was traveling to all the different countries, different exposures, different processes, how it is being done. So that's how you have to experiment yourself. Don't make your thought process and life in watertight compartments. That no, this is what I want to do. Same is with banking sector as well, because this is important. Banking people usually had that perception, or people with finance graduation or post graduation, they have, okay, I'll go and work in finance department. And what Sonar was also mentioning, like different avenues within finance. But it is far beyond that now. I have a lot of finance graduates who are there. We are present across 18,000 pin codes in India right now, right, within India. And we have almost 1 lakh ATM networks, ATMs which we have put it in this rural market, which any of the banks have not done so far. This is all because of lot of understanding on the finance side. So anybody, and we are hiring people, freshers also, in last year from finance background, who are working, going out in the market as a sales, because they understand. They have to go to distributor, they have to go to talk to, we call them spice money adhikaris, right, the agents who are there, who are going to actually sell the products, to banking products to the end customer. So they have to make them understand what is Aadhaar enabled payments, what is your cash in CMS business, right? How you will deposit the cash. These are all, but how you will use it through technology. So anybody who is not tech savvy and does not understand the technology, they will not survive. That's the fact. No matter what domain, what specialization you are at. So keep yourself open. Friends, कई बार ऐसा होता है ना कि life में you don't need to plan everything, right? Take things as it comes and handle with it. So that is called agility I'm talking about, or flexibility. Make yourself flexible. Don't keep your mind with those stuck thought process that nahi, ye mila to main jaunga, this I'll get, then only I'll go, otherwise I'll not move. And trust me, your career will shape in such a beautiful direction that you'll grow without any preconceived notions, and your growth will be immense. This is what I have seen. So this is one piece of advice to all my dear students in whatever domain they are. But keep it open, and have the agility and flexibility in your mind. You will get immense growth, and you will learning will be huge. First 5 years, just follow the learning path. Rest of the things will follow you after that.
That's really the great advice. I feel all the students have noted down this and they will comply with this advice, that you have to work for first 5 years. That is your learning year. Be flexible, be open, whatever comes, learn from them, and you will get the good things after the 5 year. You will enjoy that hard work. So that's really the great learning. Mr. Sandeep, would you like to add something in this question, the same question, the question of skill set and opportunities for management students in banking and finance sector?
Sure, Shamli. As I was listening, to both the other panelists, they both have really, concluded well. And I think for me, there is nothing much to say, but to say one thing, like, see, management, first of all, any student should realize that what is management, right? Management is a very broader scope study and subject, right? So eventually, if they have a dream, or if they have a target to work in a bank, first of all, first and foremost thing is that they need to decide that, okay, if the reason I'm taking marketing as my specialization, then I have to start, as basically, as a sales officer, or as an executive, senior executive, or in HR they are looking, so they have to start as an HR executive. So the very important thing for any of the freshers or management student to start in a bank or any other organization, I would say, is to give their 100% and not just think for a couple of years that, okay, what I'm doing and why I'm doing. So the major challenge what we face as an organization, that candidates or students, they have a really different and a big expectations in their mind, right? That, okay, now we are going in a bank, we will be a banker, right? They will be a banker, but for every stone has to take some time to shape it up and form into a sculpture, right? So as a fresher, they will have to, churn themselves. They will have to burn themselves at the same time with the process, because if they are not process oriented, if they are not, keen to know the structure of the organization, I think for any of the organization, whether it is a bank, it is a finance organization, it is any other IT organization, for a good future, I think this is required from their end, right? So this is what I am thinking, that initially they will have they will have to come with an empty mindset that, okay, now what I have dreamed, I've achieved, I've started in my dream organization. Now my work is to fill my cup with the processes and the culture acclimatization of the organization, right? So this is very much important, because most of the time what happened is, we generally see freshers that coming up with a lot of unrealistic wishful thinking, that okay, now I've joined as a, suppose, assistant manager, or a now in a year or two I'll become a branch manager. No, branch manager will require an experience of 7 to 8 years with a lot of other skills, right? So a wrong expectation, I would say, is something which they don't need to have at the time of their starting in any of the organization. So my all friends who are listening to to this session, we have really good panelists here, and they have given a brilliant advice, I would say, both of them. And from my end, I'll just add that when you start, just start with the expectation that I need to work hard, because there is no alternative of working hard, right? So if you work hard and if you do well, eventually you will learn, because skills are something which can be learned by the time. But it is very much important for one to have an intention, have a loyalty, attitude, and confidence at the time of joining, right? So this is something which I would definitely would like to tell to the students who are listening.
So that's so great, and we have learned the thing that we have to be our mind empty first, so that we can learn the things. So it relates to one concept, that learn, unlearn, and then relearn. So that's so great. Now we are going to take the questions from the students. So I have one very first question from the student for Sonal Math. So the student named Diksha Gagwat, she is asking the question: what are the on-site opportunity for the finance management students? What are the domain that he or she can target to go to the abroad also in the banking sector?
Sorry, can you come up with your question again? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Okay. So the question is, what are the on-site opportunities for the finance management student, means management student with finance specialization, and what domain that a student should select so that he will have or she will have the opportunity to go abroad as well?
Okay. See, you should actually draw in. I should ask, very nice question, but you should draw in from what Atul said right now, that when we are actually doing our MBA, we actually create silos for ourselves, that we get this, we do that, we get this, we do that. And if I go in this area or domain, I will be successful. There's no success map designed for any sector, any role. I'll tell you. It all depends upon what is your aptitude, basically. What's your aptitude? What is your skill set? Where is your knowledge? Where is your, interest in? And if you're able to excel in that, and you create a learning pathway for yourself by learning more and more, then you create a skill set for yourself, and you're an expert in that particular domain. And that's how you create your success pathway. So I am sorry, I won't be able to answer in your way, but I'll say that in finance sector, if your aptitude is in financial products creation, then if you are bent of minded towards that, then you can go in a sector and you can explore that. And if you are good in finance and marketing both, because people are doing MBA in both major and minors both, so they can create products and financial products, and they can sell it out, and they can market in a way that it can be beneficial for the company wherein they are working with. And for the abroad, I'll say, if you're working in BFSI sector, then any role wherein you excel will actually land up you in that way. So I actually cannot categorize this that, this, you choose this role and you can go into a broad way, because that totally depends upon the person, the skill set that you have, the role that you are in, how expert you are, and how you create your own pathway towards that. And even I'll tell you, I having a 13 years of experience in HR domain in all areas, then also I keep learning, unlearn myself, then relearn, and then keep that churning my pathway in that way, so that I can keep learning, and create my own learning pathway. So that's what I would say, that you check where your interest is, check what your skill set is, and what are you being offered, and never say that, okay, my skill set doesn't allow me to be a part of this role. Try and try and work. Sometimes jo hum padhte hain, whatever we study in books is not what we actually do on the job. So there are two different things: off the job training and on the job training. See, off the job training has been done. Now on the job, when you go in the field, you go on your job and train, and then you learn. That's how you'll come to know what is your interest and where is your aptitude, wherein is your skill set lies in. So that's how you will create your own pathway. That's how I summarize this question. I hope I answered your question.
So I also feel that Diksha gets the answer what she wants to know. So now, sir, there is another question for Atul, sir. So the student is asking, how is methodologies or technologies used in our banking and finance sector is different from the methodologies and technologies used in the developed countries of US or UK. I'm repeating the question. How is the methodologies or technologies that are used in our banking and finance sector of our country are different from the methodologies and technologies used in the developed countries of USA or UK, like in banking and finance sector?
Great. So this is a very good and relevant question. I'm glad somebody asked this. So I'll tell you, technology is something which India as a country has an edge, right? The way this whole IT revolution which has happened, and Indians who are doing and leading, be it any company nowadays, if you go out and see, the CIO or a CTO position is mostly, even in global companies, is being held by the Indians, right? So this is something which is one of, जैसे इसको कहते हैं ना कि वो हमारा एक ब्रह्मास्त्र हो गया. So that is what the technology is for India is. How differently we are using is in banking sector is very, very different. Why? Because we are still reaching and growing as an organization, as a country, as a society. So we are also learning. Unfortunately, this is the other side wherein, that's why I said that there's a difference. India and Bharat, there are two countries exist within this piece of land. And here, the technologies which we are looking at, of course, in terms of the knowledge and understanding, best top technologies we are using, like full stack, microservices, then your Flutter. These are all new mobile technologies which people are using within. And I'm telling you, even in fintech organization like us, they are developing close to 250 products. That's the kind of pace with which we are designing and creating the products, right? And reaching to the last man standing in the country. The important part which now we have looked into is about the design thinking. What we have, design thinking typically means that any product, this is just a step before creating any product through technology. What we are doing is we are doing the design thinking. And the biggest principle for design thinking is keeping user at the center. If you have seen the big ERPs or the big IT or technology systems like SAP, which you have heard of, Oracle, which is Oracle Financials, just to be precise, is one of the best Oracle finance products, technology product. Then we have PeopleSoft, we have SuccessFactors, we have SAPs, right? Workdays. These are all big ERPs. They all have not succeeded. Why? Because they always looked at the departments, right? Finance head or CFO will look into how this technology is going to ease my life. They have never ever thought of that how this technology is going to ease the life of the end user. And that is why these systems have failed. Now this whole design principle thing coming into picture has actually eased, and the adoption of the technology is far higher. First, the second piece, the world which has moved, and India is strong and very high on that, is on the mobility. Any technology, any product, any feature which is being designed, now almost all banks or all financial companies or all fintech companies, they are all first focusing with an approach of mobile first. Anything they will develop, it is going to be on the mobile first. Be it your banking, you can see we all use net banking, but we are using mobile banking, right, wherein you just enter the pin and then you can do the transactions. You can scan the QR code and you can do the transactions. That is why Paytm, MobiKwik, Google Pay, Amazon Pay, these are all something which has revolutionized Geo, right? It has again a mission to reach to the rural market or to the global, I mean the urban market as well. So this is where this revolution has happened. So technology wise, as compared to European countries, we have this misconception also that they are too much tech savvy. Trust me, I have been to all these places. I have seen banking. I was using Wells Fargo Bank, just to name it. But there it was a very traditional system. Again, you go, there's a bank, there is a checkbook, you have to fill the checkbook, or you have to fill that form to get the withdrawal done or to deposit the money. Unlike what India has seen when ICICI Bank has brought in a lot of a revolution wherein you can deposit the money through ATM machine. So those kind of I would say interventions from the technology side was not there even in developed countries like in US. What it is right now, of course, they have also taken a long journey now, and they all have digitized. But the kind of pace with which Indian market, Indian financial industry is digitizing is something which is very, very different. NPCI, which is National Payments Corporation of India, they are thinking that how we can do the payments through Aadhaar, and that's how this Aadhaar-enabled payment system has come into picture. It's all through technology, right? And nobody's keeping those biometric machines everywhere to check your this OTP. How we can redefine that without OTP also, because a lot of my population, rural population, they don't use smartphone. How they will enter the OTP, right? So through message OTP we can use it. For us it is so obvious, right? OTP, you just enter and you will put it. But remember, if you use Nokia 1100 phone, where is the place? You don't have a browser or anything which you can access. How you can use the OTP there? But that's the kind of thinking which is happening by the government as well, in terms of pushing that how I can just enable that through even non-smartphone, which is not a smartphone. People, because phone is using, like we are one of the biggest mobile users in the world, apart other than China. So, but how this population can use and do the internet banking or mobile banking through without smartphones as well. So that's the kind of revolution which is happening in India in terms of the technology as compared to what the developed countries are doing. They're not thinking. They're not thinking that, and that's the true, I would say, invention, right? Because everybody's using smart. So it's like you have a Mercedes car, and then you have a Bombay Pune Express Highway. There's no great thing if you're driving in that road with a speed of 150 kilometers. But if you have a Maruti 800, not the older one, but I would say still the younger one, but a road which is there from Jhansi to Gwalior, which has less of road but more of potholes, but you're still driving at 80 kilometers per hour, that's the real achievement. Right. So this is what we have to think through, friends, in terms of looking at what we are doing, what is the change which is happening. Just to add for what Sonal was mentioning in terms of this thing, this is very, very important that what avenues, on-site opportunities, what you have, you can get ample. As I said, join any technology company, be in their technology consulting domain or any consulting domain. You will get a lot of in India we cater to banks like Royal Bank of Scotland, BNP Paribas, Citibank. I mean, thousands of banks are there, right? Wells Fargo. They all need financial people from finance background, and you will have ample lot of on-site opportunities. They will call you for US or to Minneapolis or to Japan or to China or to London to consult, create the systems and processes. But this is only possible if you're knowing any finance technology system or software. If you just know the knowledge of the domain that, okay, this is balance sheet, this is how it needs to be done, how technically it can be done is going to be the key differentiator for you to get the on-site opportunities. And as Saurav was mentioning, more than skill, it is the will which is important. So if you have the will, you will survive through. Also, but remember one thing, if it is something which you see that, okay, this is what I have achieved, learned, and I'll be surviving through, no. Things are changing so very fast. So there's a famous this thing, what took us here won't let you there. Right? So keep on changing things, keep on learning and unlearn, then learn again what Professor Sanjay was saying. This is very, very important. Otherwise, you will become redundant. You'll be wiped off. आपका third batch आएगा और fourth batch आएगा, वो आपको wipe off कर देगा. Then you will see, and this is the trend which in the last 1 year, 1.5 years, people have seen. Even in a lot of technology companies or any companies, this whole thick layer of manager, senior manager, the era has gone. None of the organizations want that layer because they are neither productive nor they are adding any value. For people management, there are lots of systems, technologies which are in place. So that layer will not be in place. So that is why I'm saying this. You are going to start your career, but just keep this in mind that this is how I would say the whole workforce or the layer or in a way a generation is being wiped out because they never reskilled themselves. And they thought that, okay, this is what I have achieved. Now I have 8 years or 10 years of experience. So I'm a manager. My job is safe. I have to manage people. No. If you're not contributing, you will be taken out from the organization. And it's not that the team will achieve the goal, so my goal is achieved. You will have your own individual targets, and you have to achieve that. Then only you can survive. So there is no team management concept which is there now in the organizations because it's all matrix. Everybody is working. There are no departments. People are working with cross-functional teams. And that's how this whole collaboration and the right outcomes will come into picture. So friends, just remember, learn, unlearn, be agile. Very important. Will is more important. Skill तो आप जो सीख के MBA मैंने MBA में I am a mining engineer by education. Then I did my MBA HR. Then I joined a technology company wherein I'm doing the consulting for big of the banks, Caterpillar, which is manufacturing. A sector, Pentair. I mean, a lot of ANZ Bank, Credit Suisse Bank. So these are the banks wherein I did the consulting of HR. Right. So that's how you have to keep on evolving and keep on learning. You have to be street smart. So will is more important. That is not trainable. Right. So this is what I wanted to
That's so great, sir. Now I feel the students get the idea that there are a lot of technologies where we are better as compared to the developed countries in banking sector. So there are several things that developed countries need to do in this particular segment, finance and banking. So we are doing great. Now, sir, there is one question for Mr. Saurabh. The question is, what is actually the most common yet repetitive error that are made by the freshers while joining the banking and finance sector, and how they can avoid it?
Well, so it's a very valid question, to be honest, Shyamji. So I would first the very first issue what we face when any fresher joins, as I mentioned earlier, that there are a lot of unrealistic wishful thinkings what they come up with. So talking about a fresher, suppose who have done a management in marketing as a specialization and is coming in a bank, and on a day one he cannot expect or assume that he will be getting a portfolio to handle, or he will be getting something different from what others are doing, right? So coming up with the expectation that yes, now I have entered a field, coming up with the expectation that once I have entered a field, my job is to learn. So initially for a couple of years, I would definitely suggest to all of the students that just learn as much as you can, बहुत काम करो, मतलब make yourself don't feel satisfied at the moment, because it is just the start of the career, right? So the biggest mistake is, as I mentioned, unrealistic wishful thinking. Apart from that, they start comparing themselves very soon with their peers, right, who might be working them from more than 2.5 or 3 years in the organization. But they have their own journey. Every employer, every candidate has their own journey with an organization to in order to grow themselves, right? So they need to understand their own expectations. They need to understand their manager's expectation at the same time. And it is very much also important for all the freshers that, because you will be somehow will be mapped under any of the managers only. So you need to understand your managers also, because mostly what happened that when I've majorly seen this at banks only, that if a fresher comes up and he has been barred up with the targets that okay, now this is the target after 14 to 15 days of acclimatization in the organization, now he's supposed to say that okay, now my manager he is giving me a lot of targets. So that is what you are here for, right? You are here to work, you're here to prove yourself in this cutthroat competitive world, right? So this is what my expectation with freshers are, that you need to understand your manager, you need to understand his expectations also. And also it is important for the manager to also understand that okay, the person is a fresher, right, and he is eventually going to learn and going to grab, right? And in order to having a good and a great career in any of the organization, be patient, be disciplined. What I one of the major thing what I would definitely suggest, because there is again a very big challenge with the freshers. What I believe the panelists would also, the other two panelists we have, they'll also agree on the part that discipline is something which is we really face a problem, right? So I always tell to my fresher candidates who I make them join that if you want to be really free in your life, and if you want to really achieve your goals, you need to be disciplined. Because if you're disciplined, then you're not slave of your mood swings, you're not slave of your thoughts, right? So in order to do something on a repetitive note and making it in a behavior, it is applicable to each and every aspect of a student's or a employer or person's life, right? We cannot say that okay, I cannot do this because I don't feel it to be right. No, we can do it, we can do anything, but it has to be in discipline, it has to be in favor of what our mindset is going to, and what we are feeling to achieve in a certain point of time. So definitely my first advice would be please come up with a very positive mindset that you have to learn, you have to grow. You will be a fresher, yet you have to prove your point with your hard work only. Second thing, be disciplined, understand the policy and culture of the organization. It is very much important for any individual, for any organization, to understand them, understand your manager, understand your your set of the target what you have received and how you can accomplish. So keep yourself, your tool sharpen every time. So this is how you'll eventually grow in the organization.
Okay, so thank you very much. So Nidhi, the student who asked the question, is saying thank you so much, sir, for answering my question. Now there is one more question to Sunal ma'am. The question is, the student is from finance background, and he's asking that whether it is fruitful to do the course of big data. Is it useful to join as a data scientist with some bank or finance company?
Okay. Today, nowadays, this is a trend. Looking at the design thinking, the AI part, and everything. Today, this is relevant. If the person has an interest in, definitely, and being the technology is actually driving the internal and external customers, and being hybrid culture everywhere, everybody is talking about it. And I mean, even our company has moved into that era phase wherein we are more or less created a separate department for data science and data interpreters, analysts, and what important here is that today there is data everywhere, organized, unorganized, raw data. If you are pursuing this role, what is important is that you should prepare a data in such a manner that the leader can see the data, take inputs, take decision on it, and can see or get a hint on the next action that needs to be taken after seeing that data. Now, that's how that kind of skill is required, and that kind of data analysis and these kind of roles are really relevant nowadays. And these are actually adding a lot of value to the business. So, like Atul said, even I agree one thing, that whatever you learn, after whatever you have experienced, whatever things, knowledge that you have, what important right now is that you should be relevant. Be relevant. If you're adding value to the business, you are relevant in whatever capacity you are doing. And looking at the financial, emergence of financial technology, which has transformed the banking sector and paving a way to radical growth in the rise of fintech companies, internet banking, mobile banking, and more. And the retail solutions that we are having, and the AI part coming into this feature a lot. This role, I mean, if you have interest, this role is really good. I mean, this is emerging, and this can actually add a lot of value to your current role.
That's so nice of you, ma'am. So I feel he gets the answer what he's asking. Now there is one common and general question to all the panelists. So the students would like to know, during the pre-presentation talk, we can say the PPT, while hiring the ushers in the company, and we give the idea about the company to the students, what is actually that question, what the recruiter wants to hear from the students at that time. Sometimes students ask, and sometimes they don't ask. So what is actually that question that recruiter wants to hear during the PPT from the student? So anyone can take this question and answer.
So, Shyam, I believe I'm facing certain issues by,
Okay.
putting on my video on, but I would definitely love to take on this, question.
Right.
And, talking about, I'll be very much specific about, about the management student of freshers, because I believe they are listening us, and what sort of questions, right, that it has to be asked in interviews or, so as per the employer point of view, the employer with freshers only want to understand three basic things: the loyalty, attitude, and confidence. Loyalty, as in that how persistent and how certain the student or the candidate is who has came for the interview. Second thing is that how confident he is to take up the challenge, if I should say. So, elaborating this a bit, taking up challenge means that he don't know that, okay, what the environment is going to be. He just know that, okay, now this is the organization I'll be joining. So, with which mindset he is coming in, that is also a very, keen subject to an employer, that he wants to know that, okay, with specific mindset the candidate is, and obviously the confidence level, the attitude. So to sum up this, the employer wants to know that whether the person has an ability to do whatever the task he has been given. Right? I'm on a very honest, very brutal and honest fact I'm saying you that, because it's not about any specific bank. It's about any organization. An student will apply or go for a job too, right? So ability to do the given task is something what they would be looking for. And for banking, if I should say, obviously they should have a basic understanding and knowledge, right? They should have a basic understanding and knowledge of banking structure, If they're coming into the marketing, so marketing, what are the different type of accounts a bank has, like current account, saving account, and what different functions a bank do on a regular basis, right? And what different verticals a bank has. Suppose it is branch banking, or it is liabilities, assets, and different verticals they have. So because these are knowledge which they can definitely take up from books or social media or Google or anywhere. So this is something, knowledge about what they are keen to do. So this is what employer are really looking forward for in a candidate, that if they have a structural knowledge of the organization. Right, and apart from that, the behavioral aspect is very much important, as I mentioned earlier. The attitude, that which specific positive attitude they are coming in, and a go-getter attitude they are looking for. Because eventually, for a fresher, it is they have very less skills in terms of selling a product, or being a process oriented, or any other thing, right? So on that note, it is required that they want to learn the adaptability, right? How flexible and adaptable they would be. So these are the basic parameters, which we take care, at the time of interview, whether interviewing a fresher. So this was from my part.
Okay, that's so great. So it means the student is actually satisfied with that answer, what we need to ask during the session. Now the question is with Mr. Atul. Atul sir, what is actually the most irritating question that generally student asks during the session, during the recruitment process that a student used to ask?
So I think I never find any question irritating from anyone, to be very frank, because that's where we should also propagate and motivate people to ask questions. Because the first question which you asked, that what recruiter wants to know, most of the times recruiters don't students don't ask the right question. They and that is the problem. They don't, their main agenda or the goal is to get the job. So this is where the problem is. I think ideally the recruiter should ask questions like, how's it going to be like working with you or your company? Do not hesitate. What is the growth path for me? What next after this? Whatever role you are saying, right? What are the top 2 or 3 challenges which you are telling me in front of? It's like, so I'll tell you frankly that when you go to any astrologer or a palmist, they always tell good things about you, right? Most of the times. So it is the same way. We also go and we also talk. We hesitate as humans to ask, Bhaiya, what is the problem? What is the top 3 cultural problems you have? And what is the top 3 challenges which you faced with management trainees or graduates when you hired from campus in the last 3 years or 4 years? We will never ask as students those questions. If we'll ask them, what is the learning path for me? What is the learning opportunity for me? Right? What is the flexibility you are giving? These questions are typically being asked by little more experienced people nowadays, and people are asking whether I will be able to go and learn or read. So this is where these questions should be asked. The only one question is that which I feel that students should look into is which ideally they should not ask, as per my view, is, and specifically when people are going from campus, is that how it is going to be in terms of my job location or what work timings. I mean, these are some of the things which typically now, I feel little not awkward or irritated, but feel pity the kind of questions these students ask. This is something which is like, you should never ask. It's given. Nobody's there. It's making a work-life balance. If you have those concerns, that making a work-life balance, whether I'll get time for my personal things, is something entirely on you. How you make it and how you build the organization. If you are productive, then you will be able to work for 8 hours, and then things will get done. Like Narayan Murthy said, people who can't complete their job in 8 hours or 9 hours defined by the organization, then it's clear reflection of their incompetency, not the organization's incompetency.
Yes.
Right. So this is where I think you students should avoid asking these questions, because it is given and there's no straight answer. People will typically, any HR or recruiter will say, yeah, it is as per the policy. You'll get to know the policy. Our working hours are 9 to 5. They also lie. Trust me, I'm telling you. There is always an in time, and we all are HR people sitting here. So, fellow panelists, I'm telling you, we all say that okay, the in time is this 9, but whether you punch out at 9 p.m., nobody will question. But somebody is every day at 9:15, the notice will come. Even your systems are being configured like that. The auto notification will go why the person is punching in late every day. But no, HR will never go and say why you're punching late every day, right? So this is where the truth of the life is. So these questions typically doesn't make sense, frankly, and that also shows your immaturity. So better not to be shown as immature individual in front of the recruiter while asking these questions. Is my view, but that's not always wrong. Huh? You can clarify at what time, what stage of your professional career you are, and then you should decide whether this question needs to be asked or not. But why I'm saying that freshers or graduates should not ask, because you are coming with that mindset of learning, right? So that should not come as ki I have something which I will work only for these hours. And वो typical एक मैं थोड़ा I'll use a Hindi this thing जहाँ होता है ना कि दूध, this is a age wherein you are a milk. आप जितना इसको खिलाओगे, मिल्क को, दूध को जितना खिलाओगे उतना अच्छा खोआ बनेगा. The better you will be at the taste. So this is a learning time for you. The more you'll churn yourself, burn yourself in terms of learning, the better your life or career will be at the later stage. So don't have these things, don't ask these questions, at least for sure, is my sincere advice. Unnecessarily आपकी सारी image और सब कुछ वहाँ गड़बड़ हो जाती है. वहाँ पे फिर will का issue आ जाता है. Then people typically see that अच्छा will में गड़बड़ है यार, ये he doesn't want to work hard. That's the unfortunately that's how people perceive, and then unnecessarily जो chances भी होते हैं आपके to get entry into the organization gets faded away.
Right. That's great. So I think the student gets the answer that they need not to ask the questions regarding the locations, times, and all. And instead of that, the student have to ask about the growth. What are the growth chances? What are the learning? So that would be better for the students during the presentation of their students. Now we are at the we are about to finish that panel discussion. So the last remark from all the panelists. So I will start with the Sonal ma'am. Ma'am, what is the last piece of advice you can give to the students? I have, before I was saying that I have the marketing, finance, HR, then SAP and ERP, business analytics, and supply chain management, these 6 branches. So we have the students from all the 6 branches here available. So what is your final piece of advice to all the students?
So to all my students, I'll have one piece of advice, that follow ABC. A stands for being agile. Agile means taking decisions very fast, speed of decision making, speed of your execution. Looking at the current scenario, every organization is moving into an agile organization. Let's not being a reactive person. Let's start planning things already. Be agile. Take decisions as per the circumstance. B stands for being bold. Take appropriate risk, not take risk which is beyond your imagination, but take appropriate risk, so that take big projects, take good learnings, create your own pathway. So be bold in taking your decisions, even asking questions, and whichever, if it still your curiosity doesn't end, then keep asking questions. Be bold. So being agile, being bold, and C is being collaborative. Collaborate with your when you join a company, collaborate with your colleagues, with your team, so that everything comes into a win-win situation. The same way in your college, collaborate with your classmates in a way, in a projects, in a way that you actually you win in that particular way, you create your own success way. So that's how I would suggest that follow this A, B, and C. And also keep learning, because that's what the important thing is. And whenever you go there in front of a recruiter, don't think that this one another piece of advice I'm adding on to it is that never think that okay mujhe job milni hai. Never play with a recruiter. If you want a job and if you know that you will work in that particular role, and just don't say good answers, don't reply answers to the recruiter saying that mujhe job mil jaye. And once you join the company, you say, after few months learning, you say, I want my location, I want to go my hometown. Never do that. That creates a very different impact even for your own college. So in my 13 years of experience, I have seen a lot of students. I've been doing a lot of campus drives. So we come across a lot of very enthusiastic people, very good, excellent management trainees, and they are very good during the interviews. And after they come in, they join us, because every company spends time, money, effort in your training. And in your initial 12 months, the company gives you a lot of training. You learn a lot. And when it's the time to reap the benefits, you think of moving out or taking a change of location. So try to be with the company. Try to imbibe the culture that the company is giving you, the way it is. So in that way, you will you will grow a lot in that way. So that's it. I mean, follow ABC and keep learning and create your own pathway.
That's so great. So great advice, I must say. So now moving towards Mr. Saurabh. So any piece of final advice or final statement from your end?
So, Shyamji, I believe advices and so my advice it would be that आज के डेट में तो ऐसा है कि ये जो इंस्टा और फेसबुक और ये जो सोशल मीडिया है, टू बी ऑनेस्ट, यहाँ पे सारे sort of motivational videos and sort of motivations quotes and everything are available, right? And हम जो भी बात करते हैं और whatever we speak or whatever we say, it is already over there, right? So my advice would be only that to be honest, right? Whatever you do with full honesty, right? If you're studying, be honest with your efforts, being honest with your intention, be honest with your dreams, that okay, if I have a dream to work in an organization, so what aspect of my personality is required to achieve my dreams, right? So if suppose someone who has a dream to be an athlete, suppose, right? So if he's not honest with his efforts, then he would not be able to get the end result. You have to be persistent, you have to be you have to the practice what it is required to achieve your dream. You have to be very much honest with that, right? So honesty, I think it is the best advice I can give to any of the student, because what happened is sometimes for a timing we are really ignited, for a timing हमें बहुत जोश होता है कि yes, now we have completed our masters and MBA and now we have to go for the interview, we'll sit in the interviews and jobs, and eventually job भी लग जाता है, because organizations and colleges are so good that they provide good campus placement. But soon after achieving that dream does not mean that you have fulfilled your dream, right? Jobs are, or one more advice, that please don't consider a job as your dream, right? Take jobs as a tool or a path to complete your dreams, right? एक जॉब पाना ड्रीम नहीं होना चाहिए. ड्रीम होना चाहिए उस जॉब के थ्रू आपने जो एक सपने देखे हैं अपने लिए, अपने घर वालों के लिए, और जो आप अचीव करना चाहते हो, that has to be your dream, right? And to achieve those dreams, you have to be honest with each and every aspect of your professional and your personal life, right? So, and also in order to be honest, what you need to do is you have to go through three factors. One is planning, the second is determination, and third is execution, right? What our management we have learned on planning, organizing, directing, staffing, and controlling, right? So this is what we have learned also. So I will sum up with in three parts. That is planning, execution, and determination. Plan, first of all, plan your day. आप शुरू करो सोचना कि what things will I need to arrange or what things I need to do in order to what I have thought I have to complete it by end of the day, right? Execute it well. Determination is very much important. Honesty with determination will definitely lead to what goals you are looking for, right? So ये बहुत जरूरी है आज की लाइफ में, right? And I'm sure that हमें से जो भी यहाँ पे जितने भी लोग सुन रहे हैं, they are extraordinary well in their field, and as per the freshers also they are really good and they are really willing up to move ahead with a great career. So ये चीजें बहुत जरूरी है which you need to understand. So that would be my advice to all of my friends who are listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saurabh. Now coming to the closing remark of Atul sir, and we'll wind up the session. Atul sir.
Yeah, so interesting things both the panelists, Sonal and Saurabh has mentioned. I'll just add what I give always to my friends and especially from the fresh graduates or even people who are in their early stage of their career. I always say, see, friends, you have to be fast. And fast, typically, what it means is fearless. That is very, very important. Be fearless. A is something which I call it agile. Be agile. Be flexible. Become a liquid. Become a fluid. It makes its own shape in whatever thing it gets into. So don't think कि अरे मैं इसमें चला गया मेरा तो करियर यहाँ खराब हो जाएगा मैं तो ये था ग्रेजुएट में इसमें चला गया. Right? Nobody has done anything. And if you see the successful stories, people who have been agile and taken things, they are the ones who have done great things. So be fearless, agile. F is focused. S is self-control. Is something which is very, very important. And then this is something surrender. So surrender to your thought. Surrender to your vision, surrender to your organization, surrender to your leader or mentor. It is very, very important. Right? Surrender typically means trust. And I always give an example of the biggest example of surrender is Meera or Hanuman. Just learn the surrender from them, how they have surrendered to their boss, to their leader or to their IT, and they have succeeded in life. In whatever, I'm just not connecting it to the religion, but I'm connecting it to the kind of things which they have done. So that kind of surrendership should be there. Belief in there should be there. Then third is last one is truthful. Always be truthful in whatever you're doing. This is very, very important. And this is not only in your early stage of your life, but throughout life. It applies to us, to everyone, to our parents, grandparents. So this is the single mantra. Be fearless. Whatever entity you are getting into, whatever role you are getting into, whatever industry you are getting into, whatever location you are getting into, whatever salary you are getting into, be fearless. If you are fearless, you will achieve amazing things. Right? Be agile. Have self-control and surrendership. Then be truthful to yourself, to your work, whatever you're doing. With full dedication, you should work. That's it. So if you'll simply remember this, and this typically means fast, you'll be fast in your life. This is what is the clear message to my dear friends, and I'm sure they will be able to reflect on it and apply in their life up to some extent, and they will succeed.
That's so great, and the students are writing in chat box that thank you very much, sir and madam, for enlightening us with your knowledge and wisdom. Got to learn a lot from you today. So thank you very much. So with this closing remark, I must say thank you very much to all the esteemed guests for sharing their knowledge expertise with the students. And we are expecting such type of interactive and knowledge sharing sessions in future as well. So with this, on behalf of IIEBM Indus Business School family, I must say thank you very much to all of you. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure. All the best, everyone. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shyamji. Thank you to both of my wonderful panelists for today. I've learned a lot from both of you, and it was great interacting with both of you. Thank you so much.